It wasn't the massage that undid me. It was the way his hands made me realize how untouched I'd felt in my own marriage. My husband thought he was giving me relief, but what I needed was to be seen, not soothed. That night, I didn't cheat. I didn't even speak. But something cracked wide open inside me. And since then, I haven't slept the same. My name is Miranda. I'm 46, and lately, I felt like a stranger in my own life. I used to be that woman, the one who laughed too loud at wine bars, who wore red lipstick just to feel alive. I used to feel things. Desire. Joy. Wonder. Now I feel tired. Like I'm folding in on myself. My husband, Daniel, still looks at me like I'm the girl he married. But when his hands touch my back, it feels like he's tracing a map he no longer understands. We used to dance in the kitchen after dinner barefoot, wine-drunk, glowing. I remember how he'd kiss my neck when he thought I wasn't listening, or leave his hand on my thigh during long drives, like I was something sacred. But somewhere between promotions, mortgage payments, and the gray in his beard, something shifted. He still touches me. Still pulls me into bed like it's a routine. But the warmth is performative now, like a kiss on the cheek that lingers too long but means too little. Last month, I mentioned my back pain. Just in passing. 2 weeks later, a surprise gift, a traveling masseuse, he called it, like it was romantic. Like he knew what I needed without asking. The man who showed up was tall, warm-skinned, calm-voiced. Confident in a way that rattled something loose in me. He wasn't what I expected. But maybe neither was what happened next. The massage was professional. But something shifted in me. Not with his touch, but the way I felt it. The way I noticed it. That night, I couldn't sleep. That was the first time in years I realized my body missed being seen. And I didn't know how to tell my husband that anymore. The day after the massage, Daniel leaned over to kiss me good morning, his lips brushing mine like punctuation, not poetry. He lingered there, waiting for me to react. I smiled, but it felt practiced. Perfunctory. Like I was following steps from an old dance I didn't believe in anymore. At breakfast, he looked proud of himself. "Did you like the massage?" he asked, pouring coffee like he'd done something big. I nodded. Yeah, it was thoughtful. That wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. Daniel's a high school principal. Sharp-eyed, good with structure. He's always planning, fixing, smoothing things over. But in our marriage, he's stopped asking how I feel. He just acts, assuming he knows what I need. Touch has become his go-to, a hug when I'm quiet, a hand on my lower back when I'm distant. I know he means well, but lately, it feels like a way to bypass real conversation. That night, he reached for me in bed. Not hungrily, just routinely. His hand slid under my shirt like it always had, but instead of warmth, I felt hollow. I didn't push him away, but I didn't pull him closer either. I just froze, hoping he wouldn't notice. He whispered, "Still tense, huh?" I nodded, my voice caught in my throat. And that's when it hit me. He thought the massage was about relaxing my back. But it had woken up something far deeper. Something I hadn't known I'd buried. He doesn't know what I'm missing, not really. And I don't know how to explain that it isn't about sex, or spas, or sore muscles. It's about being touched with curiosity again. With presence. Like I matter. And I don't know if Daniel knows how to give me that anymore. I started avoiding the bedroom. Not overtly. Just little detours. I stayed up folding laundry that didn't need folding. Took longer with my skincare routine. Started reading on the couch until my eyes burned, pretending I was just really into the book. It's not that I don't love Daniel. I do, in that complicated, layered way love matures after 2 decades. But I've started to resent how much of our affection feels assumed. Like I owe him my body because he brings home dinner or refills my car with gas. Last Tuesday, he came up behind me while I was doing dishes. Slid his hands around my waist and kissed my shoulder. It was sweet, familiar. But something inside me recoiled. I stiffened. My breath hitched. He didn't notice. Or maybe he did and chose to ignore it. "Missed you today," he murmured. I smiled without turning around. "You were at work." "I was here." He chuckled like I'd made a joke, but I hadn't. I was just stating a fact. We'd lived two separate lives under the same roof again, like usual. That night, he kissed me deeply, trying. His hands wandered, slow and searching, but I felt disconnected. Like my body was doing one thing while my mind floated somewhere else entirely. I let him kiss me. I even kissed back. But my heart wasn't in it. My stomach twisted, not with guilt, but with a kind of grief. Because I wanted to want him. I did. But all I could think was, why does everything have to turn into sex? Why can't he just sit next to me quietly? Why can't he ask how I'm really feeling and actually wait for the answer? Why can't I say what I need without ruining everything? It happened over something stupid. We were at that little Italian place near the marina, the one with string lights and jazz covers playing too loud. Daniel was trying, I could tell. He complimented my dress twice, ordered my favorite wine, even made a joke about us sneaking off to the beach like we used to when we were younger and reckless. I smiled, I played along. I even laughed once. But inside, it was all fog. I felt like I was performing a version of myself I didn't believe in anymore. Then he reached across the table, took my hand, and said, "See? We just needed a little spark." That massage must have really helped. That was it. The moment. I stared at him, this man who'd loved me for years, who'd built a life with me brick by brick, and all I saw was how far apart we really were. I yanked my hand back too quickly. The wine glass rattled. God, Daniel, do you really think that's what this is about? I snapped. A massage fixed everything? Just some stranger's hands and now I'm cured. He blinked, startled. I was just saying I know what you were saying. You think my body is the problem. Not this silence. Not how we haven't had a real conversation in months. Not how I feel like I'm vanishing inside this marriage while you pretend everything's fine. People at the nearby table turned to look. I could feel my chest tightening, my voice quivering. I wanted to stop, but it was pouring out of me too raw, too long buried. Daniel looked stunned. Embarrassed. Hurt. I didn't know you felt like that. Because you never asked, I said, quieter now. You sent a stranger to touch me when all I wanted was for you to see me again. We sat there in silence, candles flickering between us. Later, in the car, I watched the reflection of my face in the window and didn't recognize myself. I'd never said anything like that before. And I didn't know what scared me more, that I'd finally said it, or that he might not care enough to respond. The days after the dinner fight passed like fog rolling in soft, thick, and hard to see through. Daniel didn't say much. Neither did I. He stopped reaching for me in bed. He still made coffee in the morning, still sent me calendar invites for things like roof inspection or neighborhood meeting. But the small stuff, the real stuff, was gone. No more forehead kisses. No more fingers grazing mine under the table. Just silence wearing a polite smile. At first, I thought I wanted this distance. I thought it would give me space to figure things out. But silence has a way of echoing, of making you hear all the things that went unsaid for far too long. I missed him. And I hated that I did. I missed the way he used to hum when he folded laundry. The way his hand instinctively reached for mine in crowded rooms. I even missed the way he used to argue with me about movie endings. But mostly, I missed feeling chosen. One afternoon, I found him in the garage reorganizing boxes. I stood there for a minute, just watching him from the doorway. His broad shoulders. That fleck of gray in his hair he used to complain about. He looked tired. Older. Like me. He glanced up. Need something? I opened my mouth. Closed it. No. Just looking for the tape. He nodded and went back to sorting. That was it. Later that night, I sat in the bathroom, wrapped in my robe, knees to my chest. I thought about the masseuse, how strange it was that a perfect stranger could awaken something in me that Daniel hadn't touched in years. Not just desire. Presence. That feeling of being witnessed. I knew Daniel wasn't a bad man. He was kind. Reliable. A man who tried, but didn't always know how to try in the way I needed. The truth is, I didn't know if this was a phase, or the beginning of the end. But I knew one thing for certain. If I stayed silent, nothing would change. So I had to choose, speak or walk away. And I didn't know yet which would hurt more. 3 nights later, I found him asleep on the couch. He hadn't even taken his shoes off. The TV was still on, some old Western rerun. His arm was tucked behind his head, the other resting across his chest like he was protecting something. Or maybe nothing. Maybe he was just tired of pretending, too. I stood there in the dark for a long time. This was the man I had built my life with: holidays, funerals, home repairs, hospital scares. He had held my hand through childbirth, sat beside me in waiting rooms when my mother died, carried groceries when my wrists gave out. He had been there, even when I didn't always feel seen. And yet, we were strangers now. Or maybe just people who had forgotten how to speak the same language. I pulled the blanket from the back of the couch and gently laid it over him. He stirred, barely. As I turned to leave, he spoke, voice low, gravelly. "Are we okay?" It was the first vulnerable thing he'd said in weeks. I sat down on the floor beside him, tucking my legs underneath me. "I don't know." He looked at me, eyes shadowed by the glow of the television. "You blindsided me that night. The restaurant." "I know," I whispered. But I needed to say it. "I've been disappearing, Daniel. And you didn't notice." He blinked. "I thought I was doing everything right. Providing. Protecting." "You were," I said, gently. "But I needed something else. Not protection. Not gifts. I needed you. Not your hands on me. Your eyes. Your questions. Your curiosity." He sat up slowly, wincing as the couch creaked. He didn't try to kiss me. Didn't pull me into a hug. But he touched my knee just once and left his hand there. Not claiming. Not expecting. Just being there. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't pull away. Maybe this wasn't healing. Not yet. Maybe it was just a pause in the unraveling. But even that felt like something. And sometimes, something is enough to hold on to for one more night. If you had asked me 6 months ago if I was happy, I would have said yes. Not enthusiastically, but politely. Automatically. The way women are taught to answer questions like that when they have a good man, a safe home, and a calendar full of commitments. But happiness isn't the same as being awake in your life. And I think I'd been sleepwalking for a long time. The massage wasn't the issue. Not really. It was just the crack in the glass. A stranger's hands reminded me of something I hadn't felt in years. Not lust, but awareness. It wasn't about desire. It was about attention. Being seen. And for a moment, I remembered what it felt like to inhabit my own skin again. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because anything inappropriate happened, but because something honest did. My body responded to something I hadn't allowed myself to admit. I was lonely. Even in my own marriage. Especially there. And that realization shattered me. But here's the part one didn't expect. Honesty didn't destroy us. It cracked us open. Daniel and I are still figuring it out. Some nights, we sleep in the same bed but barely touch. Other nights, we talk until 2 a.m. About nothing and everything, like we're getting to know each other again, as the people we've become, not just the people we married. It's awkward. Sometimes painful. But it's real. I don't know what will happen. Maybe we'll grow back together. Maybe we'll gently drift apart. But for now, I'm choosing presence in myself, in this moment, in whatever comes next. And if there's anything I've learned, it's this. Love isn't just staying. It's noticing. It's asking. It's choosing to look, really look, even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it's easier to pretend nothing's wrong. And now,